Hey everybody, it's the Epistemologers here today, and today's topic is memes. We're going to talk about memes. We're going to do it. Memetics. the great
Okay.
advertising.
Well, we'll link it. So the meme we're using in the abstract, it's not necessarily pictures of cats with captions or whatever, but although that's how it is in popular.
We're actually using it in its classical sense. So the meme was an idea, essentially. A spreadable, shareable idea.
It is a piece of information that compels us to share it.
Yep.
It's a replicator. It replicates itself.
An idea that replicates itself.
Replicating systems really well through evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Because these things evolve really fast, and you'll see variants of memes, and it has corollaries with genes, which is where the term meme came from.
Really interestingly, memes will go extinct. You'll have memes that are no longer relevant anymore, and people don't use them. You try putting a meme from 2008 on the internet, and you're going to get laughed off the net, the webs.
It's not shareable at that point.
Yeah. It might even be a meme that you used a shitty old meme. Think about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever will stick, right? So you'll have populations of memes that compete with each other for attention, and for some of them will outspread another one. So you'll have wars of memes behind the scenes. And really, if you break outside of the internet for just a bit, you'll see memes are generally the long-lived ones. They're the ones that survive for a long time. They're cultural ideas. They're like really good scientific theories tend to be long-lived. There's like music, like playing music is a meme.
The idea,
and you'll have big clusters of memes, like complexes of memes that work together too.
Well, yeah. So there's a complex of memes of what it is to be an American, right? The Second Amendment.
Yeah, right.
All the amendments, really. All the first 10, the Bill of Rights. The idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The freedom, that sort of thing. The eagle. Representing...
Some of these memes survive for a long time because they're just innately valuable to us. And we want others to have that. Some of them are more rational than others. Some of which are more stagnation oriented and irrational, where they are good on the surface, but counterintuitively just hurt us. Then there's some that are more progress oriented, which really get us on a better track of solving problems and improving our lot in life.
So ironically, an example of a progress meme is freedom of speech. The idea that we should be able to air our ideas out and be able to talk amongst ourselves and figure out what's really going on, right? So being able to say an opinion, even if it's unpopular, is a value that's really good for airing out and helping each other understand what's going on in the world. Conversely, and interestingly, I'd say a stagnation meme is the idea of freedom. Freedom can be stagnatory in that if you have too much freedom, you not really helping anyone. You're doing your own thing. So you're
do what thou wilt.
Yeah, do
that
what
sort
thou
of thing
wilt.
Can be corrupted.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
interesting. So it's usually it's usually on the surface very shareable and seems correct.
Yep.
But has a tendency to bite us in the butt.
A stagnatory meme. On the flip side, a progressive meme usually gives us a better understanding. And that's kind of the interesting thing about studying or understanding memes and the greater effect of the world is that all knowledge, everything that we can do sharing between us, between different people, is tricking. So in communicating anything, you are not really communicating reality because that's impossible. You're communicating an impression of reality, and it is that impression that you hope to tailor to be good enough so that people can understand that reality. So, in essence, everything is a trick. Even really positive and powerful things are just tricks. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It depends on the intent behind it,
Yeah.
and it depends on how it leaves you. So it leaves you in a better place, or a place where you understand the world better, and the intent is more pure,
Yep.
then that's actually where we want to go. It tricks you into a better place.
Here's a thought. Does the intent really matter at that point? Or is it how you are left that is more important?
Right, good question. I tend to think that intent does matter, but maybe not for the purposes of getting us on the right track. But in this case, they can diverge a bit. You can intend to confuse people and end up helping them.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But yeah. But yeah, I think in general intent does matter. And intent comes from consciousness.
Right.
Which I think in general, problems are objectively bad by definition. And so their solutions are necessarily good. And so if you can kind of follow this as memes, if you tailor your language to problem, solution, that kind of terminology, you tend to track something pretty solid, logically solid, at least in terms of trying to persuade. Because people generally like their suffering to be relieved. So if you can provide that alleviation, you're providing some value.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the growth in our economy comes from, is because we are scratching that itch.
But interestingly, scratching that itch or alleviating suffering is not necessarily good. You can scratch that itch and be stagnatory, right? By
broken window fallacy.
Yeah.
Is a good example, I think.
Yeah.
Because we have a case of where we want our windows to be fixed and intact.
Right.
And so if someone comes and breaks your window, we have a problem.
Right.
But that could just be done as a business.
Yeah. So essentially, you could have a business that is the window repair business, but they pay the local kids to break windows. So a kid goes and breaks your window, and then you have to call the local window repair business, and they are the one that paid the kid to break your window. But you don't know that.
And for our empire, that is a remarkably common business model. Remarkably common.
Yeah.
And it works because no one knows how this works, right? Yeah. No one knew that it was the window repair company paying these hooligans to break the windows. No one could, you can't know everything.
They just thought it was kids being kids and being stupid and annoying.
Just kids.
Yeah.
And we actually, surprisingly, we have tons of these social groups organized to create problems on purpose. And
literally,
if you look at things like caravans of immigrants coming up to overwhelm the border is an example.
Well, and recently,
they were creating a problem by organizing that.
I mean, there's Craigslist ads for people to be, protesters or to fill out and round out these big numbers, right? And even to the point,
or put bad people in the middle of a generally benevolent group.
Yep. To
make it look bad.
Yeah,
the whole group look bad.
That was happening in Occupy, where there would be undercover cops and agents that were doing bad shit, or provoking people into doing bad shit, and that just to make it painted as a bad thing, and eventually it ended.
So just being aware of the possibility of that being a business model is a really important step at becoming immune to these fabricated problems, artificial problems that didn't need to exist in the first place.
Yes.
Let alone be fixed by the people who created them. So you're just profiting that engine of fakery and conflict.
And if you've been,
by and large, I think war in this world is part of that too.
And if you've been paying attention, what we're describing is the idea of a false flag. We're just not necessarily putting it in that language because it doesn't need to be in that language. We don't necessarily need to call it a false flag.
With false flags, you're hoisting the wrong flag over your ship. You're making it look like the other guy did it.
Yep.
So you put up the wrong flag, you shoot down the other person's ship or
Whatever
cannon.
Yeah.
Destroy the other ship, and then everyone thinks it was that guy who did it.
And then
because that was the flag they put up. But it's such a simple trick.
Yeah.
It's such a simple trick, and remarkably, people fall for it. So that's why it's done all the time.
Yeah.
So, if you look into it, if you look into the history of that, you'll see a progression of many, many, many examples. And this is partly how the empire keeps afloat, because they can capture energy. The more traumatic or tragic the event is, the more energy there is to sculpt.
Yep.
So they can direct that energy towards whatever solution makes sense for people. Like, like if you're told that these poor polar bears are going to die because all of the ice is melting, and this is a terrible thing, and look at how awful this is, and look, we're responsible for it. It's you who did it. We're drumming up emotion.
Yep.
It might be true. So my position on climate science is it might be true. I don't know. I'm not really a climate person. Don't know. But it really has interesting political effects because it captures a lot of emotion. People will be like, oh my gosh, we're destroying the planet. We should save it. Let's do something. Let's act. So what do? Well, we can fill out some surveys online and give everyone our information.
Yep.
Or we can join a protest somewhere.
Donate today.
To help raise awareness. Donate to that organization. Or we can vote for environmentalists, which may come from a particular political party. So you'll have action, but it will be definitely something that the empire wants. And you got to be careful. You got to be careful about where your action goes.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily...
because you don't necessarily want to shoot yourself in the foot.
It doesn't necessarily even have to be from the empire. It's just a tactic used by a huckster or somebody who wants to get power. You know? You know
what? Let me back up because I use the empire as an emergent pattern, not as a government.
Oh, okay.
So the empire, by the empire, I mean, okay, if you were able to trace all the money, all the flow of money, and you look at this big graph, that kind of gives you a picture of what the empire is. These people are not necessarily working all together. They hate each other, and at the top, they don't like each other. They don't want to do what each other wants. We don't have one big government, I don't think.
No.
Really, they're just ruled by stagnation memes. That's the common pattern. So stagnation memes are everywhere, and they want to share them. So we'll have them.
So what you're saying is the empire is not necessarily a cohesive group. It's more the idea of a bunch of people wanting to stagnate society in order to reap the benefits of a stagnated society, right?
Yes. Yes, independently from each other.
Yep.
They don't necessarily work together. They're very federated. There's competition amongst them all. They don't work together. They hate each other. They don't. By and large, the closer to the top you get, the less power you have.
And why you call this the empire?
And that's an important concept.
And why you call this the empire is because throughout history there has always been people who want to do this, and those people have always been the monarchs and the people in power. They've always been people because, and this makes sense, people in power don't want change inherently because change usually throws them out of power. Change usually means
their system that they benefit from. Yeah. But they're just as trapped. They're more trapped.
Yes.
You know the saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown?
Yes.
It's not just because of paranoia or what it be. There is that. But it is the fact they're tied from all these different angles by responsibilities, by the fact everyone wants that crown.
Yep.
Everyone's gunning for it. No one likes them.
Yep.
So they're tied. And everyone at the top, like the king, whoever, or the emperor, hypothetically, is getting steamrolled by one thing: stagnation. And this is something they worship at the top. They worship stagnation, and they've personified it.
So it
is their god.
It is a catch-22, because at one hand,
yep,
in order to maintain power, they have to stop progress. Or at least slow it down enough for a single person to catch up with it, which, if anyone knows their parents, is a pain in the ass. Or
they want to capture progress.
Right.
They want a little bit of progress that they can cultivate.
Yeah. But they can follow and they can stay ahead of.
Yeah. Yes.
Or
so that's the whole premise behind Rising Stars.
Yep.
Is they burn brightly and then they're abused and broken down eventually. But they're only rising at the pleasure of this stagnation empire.
Well, I'd say a rising star is more of an attention getter. But to finish the catch-22, they can either try to stagnate, or they can lose their throne. They can lose all the power that they had and join progress and be a part of a progressing meme, which is painful because
they're very much at odds.
They have to take a step backwards. You lose something if you're the king and progress is happening. The
reason why progress can't centralize like that is because problem solvers need to be able to solve problems in front of them. Yep. They need to become very intimately familiar with that problem, and everything else needs to get out of their way so they can solve it. And that's a very personal thing. You can't have a centrally organized engine like that work as effectively as a entire community where everyone is a free agent solving problems and sharing solutions. It just cannot compete. You can't have a top-down hierarchy that competes with it. It just doesn't work. But the Empire really likes hierarchies because they can capture all that energy.
Yes. You can direct the flow of energy really easily from a hierarchy. Well, I want
to go back to memes. The stagnation...
Oh, go
ahead.
Can we
do the...
Yep.
Yeah? What?
Go ahead.
Stagnation memes and progress memes.
Yep.
It's very important because this is the duality that these rulers understand so well. It comes through in all kinds of different
imagery and symbology and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's the dualism. Yeah, but it's essentially progress memes and stagnations, and these memes have been warring with each other in very real terms for many, many thousands of years. And we have been sort of their vehicle, their vessel, because memes really compel us. We don't compel them or anything. They're just pieces of information. So they're compelling us to share them and spread them, and we're their hosts. So they're a lot like viruses. And we're sort of their battleground, so to speak. And this war is what people would refer to as a spiritual war. It's between these two forces of stagnation versus progress, and this is a very important concept for anyone looking to take advantage of that energy. So we have a system that's essentially become extremely fake and stagnant, where we are taught things that are ultimately false, and the people know that it's false. Somebody knows it's false. But in many cases, we're taught these things to preserve the status quo. So the public is taught basically a lie, a huge complex of lies, and then they are taught something else. So getting at the bottom of what's happening in our world, we have to explain this. So stagnation memes are very important to recognize because they're everywhere. They're in every field. They're in every... You can't escape
No one
them.
is immune.
And here at the Epistemologers, we talk about stagnation a lot just because in philosophy, there's a very real trap that they set up. There are ideas that are very compelling on the surface, but they lead you to a trap. And so we talk about this over and over again, but this is just more stagnation memes. In terms of viral marketing, marketers are trying to get at memes because they act viral. They are like mind viruses. They get into your mind, and you can tout a project or product that way. And this is the thing that generally works right now because memes are a big thing online, and we're still trying to capture all these eyeballs. So marketers have had to adapt really fast to the internet, and it really broke us out of a long run of stagnation, and it's still breaking us out. So marketing and advertising has had to change a lot as a symptom of this. But really, what it is because information is so good these days, relatively. We're all waking up, and this has physical effects, primarily physical effects. It has metaphysical effects, and it means that the foundation of their empire is crumbling. We're starting to question the very formulas that they've been employing for how many centuries.
People are starting to notice, and it's really bad. You don't want the JFK assassination to be recognized as an operation by more than a few dozen people. Otherwise, there's too many people noticing flaws in the narrative.
It's parts where the war spills out. If you look at the Kennedy family, you'll notice an interesting number of plane crashes.
Yeah.
Plane crashes and car crashes. These things are
amazing.
Should we say they're yeah, it's interesting. It draws the eye.
Yeah.
If you look, they don't want you to think about that.
No.
They would want you to pay attention to this other thing that's very shiny and very interesting, but ultimately very stupid.
Yes.
Because that just cultivates you into this.
It's easy if it's easy to take your attention. If it's easy to take your attention and direct it at something, it's easy to use you as a proponent of something. And you can see this in a lot of the ways that protesters have been attacking people. You're able to whip up a frenzied crowd out of random, almost inane stuff that it doesn't make sense for that crowd to be there, but for whatever reason, that attention got directed at that point. And so it's really interesting. Anyway, I guess we can stop it here. We were the Epistemologers. Please like, subscribe, and comment on what your favorite media